Welcome to what I'll call the budget room in our master bathroom renovation. As you can see, it looks okay. Well, at least I hope you think it looks okay. I'm going to go through some of the things I did to save some money on this renovation, starting with the lights fixture. So, this light fixture here was an old silver one that was original to the house. And before that, it even had those tulip-looking, grandma-looking sconces on there. So the first step was replace the sconces. That was easy. The second step was just spray paint it. So save some money on that because we were going to buy a new fixture. And because you're not touching this, I would suggest spray painting is okay. So here's the exact same thing I did in my kid's bathroom. Tell me which orientation you like the sconces. I can't decide, so I got both. So moving on to the other thing is the hardware on here. So, spoiler alert, I'm keeping these cabinets, and they had some nasty, ugly hardware on there to begin with, and it's 2025. Everything is matte black now, so it's also square and modern looking to match our shower from the future. Even more mismatched were these brass/bronze hinges that were on there previously as well. Now, I know brass and bronze has made a comeback, but these are just too chunky and gunky to replace. Don't worry about that. That's just a little bit of paint drip. Yeah, here's the pulls. They were the satin nickel, which I don't think is out of style yet, but this style is definitely out of style in my opinion. And you feel free to disagree with me here. I like these cabinets. I don't think that the wood and the black clash in this case, and we carried that wood look into the main bathroom. Here I have some kind of minimalistic custom floating shelves that I made. Take it or leave it on a design, but they allow us to have jams and plants right there in the shower with us, which we like. And that brings me back to these cabinets. I love them. They're real wood. They're got real drawers and shelves. They're not some crappy pressboard junk that you get on most modern vanities that balloons up when it's exposed to water. And guess what? This is a sink. It's gonna see a little bit of water. So we're keeping the cabinets. We're just gonna replace the top. Okay, so here we got our old countertop. It's not in the worst condition. It's a solid state countertop. I do not like modern vanities where it's one piece and it's kind of separate from your walls. I like the seamless look of it being integrated to your walls. Maybe I'm old school, but I don't like to have a little space underneath and to the sides where dust and dirt can get. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm gonna replace the countertop and the faucet. So first, we gotta get this countertop out. All we're really gonna need is a knife to cut the caulk, maybe a crowbar, we'll see. The main thing is to try not to cause too much damage to the wall, the drywall here, because you're gonna have to do drywall work if you mess it up too much. Getting started here by removing the sink. Normally there's just a few thumb screws you have to remove, and you could pull that out after disconnecting the water lines. Here we've got that knife cutting the caulk on here, using a painter's tool as well to pry that off of there. So you're gonna see some blobs of caulk that were used to hold on there, and that's what you're trying to release. And you know, in the future, probably not gonna do the blob method. That it's just not that good for holding.
If you're unlucky, this is what happens, and you pull off part of the wall. So you have to patch that. Crap!
So I lost the footage of me taking the vanity top off. I promise I did it myself. Should have used two people.
Let's see if I got enough out.
So that's me removing the water from these angle stops. They needed to go. They did not shut off all the way. So doing some DIY plumbing repairs on these. They're soldered in, so that's why you see me having to desolder it. Because of those soldered connections, I did have to do a good amount of pipe prep on these to accept a compression connection. You could go back with solder again, but I just wasn't a big fan of blowtorching on this thing. Had to do a little cutting to get those discussions back on for, you know, completionist purposes.
Good old compression, you gotta have at least one small leak that you have to re-tighten up. Classic! Repairing all the damage that I did to the wall while taking out the backsplashes with some spackle here, and you just need to make a smooth surface to adhere back to. Don't have footage of me painting, and I also don't have footage of me putting the top back in place. Guys, I promise I did that myself. Here is the new Vanity top. It is a solid surface countertop, and it came in at $500. The savings on this is just not buying a brand new whole Vanity piece, and it goes even higher when you get to the premium options with marble tops. Here it is in place. Got the nice, plastic piece there. You can see it was a little hard to get in there, and if you've done your measuring right, you should only have a small gap, and that gap will be covered up with your side splash. So you also might not have square walls, so you might have different gaps. Here is me putting the caulk back just to show you how those side splashes go on. Put a lot of caulk on there. Squoosh. Squoosh it in. And let it sit for a while, and it's set in place. So now you can see where we're going to cover up a little bit. Now this is a backer rod, and it is just a piece of foam that you cut to length, and you can jam into little corners so you're not trying to fill that whole corner up with a big blob of caulk. It gives something the caulk to sit on, so that's why that's going in there in that corner. If you have most walls are not square, so you're going to have some weird angles you got to deal with. Also, seaming up the top and the sides and where the side splash meets the top of the Vanity is very important for waterproofing and looking better and adhesion. Moving right along to installing the sink, because now we've got the top on there. This is the Moen Genta. Make sure you go with a name brand that you've heard of before that's not a piece of crap. There is a lot of crap out there. Just going to leave that there. I bought this used on Amazon after sitting and watching it for a long time, and that allowed me to save about 20% on the price. But fortunately, it's actually cheaper now than when I bought it. So if you're looking for a deal, it's pretty affordable, especially compared to some of the super modern looking ones. This one's a good mixture of square and round, if that makes any sense. So the install on this was pretty straightforward. Everything went together as it should go. The only gripe that I have was there's this one little gasket here that goes on the bottom, and it easily fell off. I mean, it came in the right spot, but it easily fell off. So I could see that. And it wasn't mentioned in the instructions. I can see that being a problem if you forgot it or didn't know it was there. You could also just fix that with silicone. So not the biggest deal. Every sink install is going to have some variation. You just got to pay attention to the instructions. I mean, here's another example. This retainer clip for the sink, you have to measure the width of your sink and use the right orientation of retainer clip for this to work. And if you didn't read the instructions, that would be a problem. But it works, and it's pretty easy. The other thing I don't have footage of is snapping those final connections on, and they were so easy. Those little white pieces you see in the video here, they just literally snap on over those couplings, and then it allows you to connect your water lines. It's so simple. It was great to work with. You're also going to have to deal with the drain, and that's all covered in the instructions as well. The only thing not covered is that you're going to have to adjust a few things to fit your sink situation. And then this has to be rotated to the back. I mean, here's an example here. A universal kit's not going to cover the length of every sink, so had to mark and cut it to fit our P-trap up there. And speaking of P-trap,
the smell. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just make sure you have something to catch the water and bring a nose plug. And once cut, it goes back together with the existing stuff, no sweat. And the sink works, no leaks. I love the waterfall and I love how it looks, so I am overall very happy with this. And I'm not saying you're saving $1 million here, but $700 is enough for me to consider this a success. And that doesn't even include the money I saved by doing it myself. I sincerely hope someone watched this and found a way to save some money, gave you some good tips, or motivated you to do something yourself. If I could have saved more money, I would love to know. Let me know in the comments. And until next time, this is Josh saying, get out there and go do some stuff.